On behalf of everyone at WNET, congratulations to Steve Adubato and the Caucus Educational Corporation on 25 great years of broadcasting.
Hi, I'm Tom Marino. At Cohran, we believe that all citizens need to be informed about the issues that affect their daily lives. That's why we're proud to support the programming produced by Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Barnabas Health, Berkeley College, the law firm of Gibbons PC, United Water, making the planet sustainable is the best job on Earth, Wells Fargo, Verizon Communications, and by New Jersey Natural Gas, proud to support education in our communities. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger, powering NJ.com, and by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association and its monthly magazine, New Jersey Business.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Play this one note as steady as possible, flawless, and you breathe all of the air out of your body into the instrument.
It's meditation, and it connects you to the universe.
Because you putting your sound right out there into the ethers. And it's going everywhere, it's touching everything. Like sometimes you'll hear those cicadas stop or you'll hear them start going while we going. I mean, our father taught us that it was the long tone and it makes sense. Because anything that's worth anything lasts long.
It's good stuff. That's from the film Brothers Hypnotic, and the gentleman who put it together is right here. I want to thank you for joining us for the first time. Reuben Atlas, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
You're the director of that. Give us some context. It's a story about 8 brothers from the south side of Chicago.
Right. Their father's a jazz legend. He had 25 children. And
the jazz legend we're talking about is?
Phil Cohran.
Phil Cohran.
Phil Cohran.
Right.
And he had sort of a space in the secret history of the south side of Chicago and in the music scene. And almost everybody who was famous that came through Chicago knew him or played with him. Mm. But he raised his sons with their mothers together as a band.
But they had different moms.
They had different moms, yeah.
And so, how the heck do you meet these 8 brothers from the south side of Chicago? I happen to know that you're not born and raised in the south side or from the south side of Chicago.
They were playing in Union Square. And I was actually in my 3rd year of law school and sort of just walking, not thrilled about being in law school.
Here in New York?
Here in New York. And I heard this sound sort of bouncing off buildings, and I turned the corner and there was the 8 of them like bouncing in unison and playing this music that was just incredible. And it fused hip hop and jazz and funk and blew me away.
And you said?
I sort of waited till after the song was over, and I went immediately over to sort of one of the guys on the end and said, I love this music. I was working making advocacy videos at the time when I was in law school for people who were incarcerated under the Rockefeller drug laws. And I was interested in making
Rockefeller drug laws having to do with crack versus cocaine and
well, mandatory. They're mandatory
minimums.
Yeah,
got it.
And I just said to one of them, I would love to make a video, help you guys get gigs. And they, you know, there's a lot of street musicians in New York, a lot of talent, but rarely do you see that much talent and that many people and such a force on the corner. And they sort of looked at me and they said, you know, we're all right getting gigs. You know, we can get gigs if we want. Best way you can support is if you buy a CD. And so I bought a CD, showed up the next day with a camera, and sort of went from there.
How long ago was that?
2007. So it's been a while. Yeah, a long journey.
Because I happen to know your dad and your mom, John and Bonnie.
Yeah.
They started telling me about this a while ago. I'm like, he's doing what? Reuben's doing what?
Yeah, yeah.
And so while are you living your life separately, doing other things and dabbling in this, or do you say I'm all in?
Well, when I started, when I would take breaks during studying for law school classes, and there was a moment when they got offered a deal from Atlantic Records right when I was studying for the bar, and I had a moment of, if I focus on this film, this is a huge moment. I need to be there.
Yeah.
But something forced me into, taking the bar.
Reuben, I'm sorry for interrupting. What makes this film special, and why should people make sure they see it?
I mean, these brothers and their story, and their father's story, and they've sort of bucked the pressures of convention to create something that's just amazing and beautiful.
How'd they grow up? What was it like?
I mean, they grew up in the south side of Chicago in the 1980s, arguably the neighborhood's worst decade. And they had this, outside environment that was very difficult to deal with. And then inside the house, they had this utopia. And so there are these discordant aspects of their upbringing that really is in their music in a very authentic way.
Now someone says, well, I'm not all that much into music. It's not my thing, particularly that kind of music, whatever they think that is. What's in it for them?
Well,
there's a lot more than music.
I mean, it'd be very hard because their music sort of fuses a lot of different elements and is very accessible.
Accessible.
Yeah, because it's not, their songs are not sort of like avant-garde jazz songs. They're very contained, rooted in pop sensibilities. And so the first thing I would say is listen again. But then I would say that for the film, it's a family story, and it's a father-son story, and it's a story about brotherhood.
These guys stick together.
Yes.
They have a bond.
I would say so.
So where are they now?
Now they're in New York and Chicago, and one of them is in LA, but they're still together as a band.
They're making money?
Yeah, they're doing good.
They're making a living?
Yeah, they're making a living, which is, that's the key.
Do they have their own families, or what's the deal?
Yes. I think now 4 or 5 of them have children of their own. And they're all, well, not all of them, but mostly being raised as musicians as well, or at least being taught how to play.
So you're this guy a few years back who was in law school walking around in New York City, hear them and you do this. And they say buy a CD, and then the rest is quote-unquote history. And by the way, the film is being seen as we do this show. It's opening up in theaters,
Yeah, well, it premiered at South by Southwest in March of 2013, and has been playing festivals, and then it'll be in theaters in late February, early March of 2014.
Got it.
And then it'll be on PBS on Independent Lens in April.
We like
2014.
that. Yeah. Anything connected to PBS, right?
Yeah.
So here's my question. So you do that. They say buy a CD, and the rest happens. Is this what you thought would happen when you stopped and listened to those guys?
I definitely was drawn by something, outside of my own rational thought process. I don't think if I had thought about what would become of this that I would have made it, especially over 5 years. I think there was a little bit of delusion that I had in thinking, that I could be in law school and making this film and that I would get it done. And I ended up just sticking with it, and that was my focus more than anything. But I'm excited about what's happened with it, and I'm proud of the film.
You should be. Last question before I let you out of here. People always do this when someone makes a film that's special. They say, "What are you going to do next?" Don't you hate that?
No, I'm happy.
So what are you going to do next?
I've been working on this for a long time, so I'm happy to look forward to. I'm making a film. Actually, my father wrote a book about the community organization
We had him on the show talking about it.
He was on the show,
Right.
Known as Acorn. And I'm making, with a documentary luminary named Sam Pollard, we're making a feature-length documentary about the organization.
It's a fascinating organization, a lot of twists and turns, and a lot of folks misunderstand what Acorn's all about.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's an important film.
Yeah.
You mind if I plug again?
Sorry?
Mind if I plug?
Please.
Reuben Atlas is the director of a very interesting film called Brothers Hypnotic. I want to thank you for joining us on One on One.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah.
Folks, this is One on One. We'll be back right after this. Interesting.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
Ron Labaco is the Marcia Docter Curator at the Museum of Art and Design right here in New York City, right?
It's right down the street on Columbus Circle.
Well, thanks for coming to hang out in the neighborhood with us at the Tisch WNET studio.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Let me ask you, this exhibit we're about to talk about is called the out-of-hand exhibit, Materializing the Postdigital?
Yes.
Make sense of that.
It is our three-dimensional world as interpreted by computer-assisted manufacturing.
Huh?
So it's looking at objects, things that were created,
right?
That were designed, created, conceived by artists, architects, and designers over the past 8 years.
Can we look at video first?
Absolutely.
Because sometimes you can talk about it and then you have to see it. Go ahead, let's go to it.
So this shows the influence for this table that was made through 3D printing. So this is called a Fractal Table by 2 German designers.
Right.
And in a moment we see, this is the digital model in the computer, and then this is actually the 3D printing machine. This is built up in layers. Now, lasers cure layers of liquid resin.
Right.
And layers upon layers are built up much like coil building a clay pot. And basically, it goes from a digital design, a 3D model in the computer, into a physical object.
Is that what's called digital fabrication?
Absolutely. So
digital fabrication, is that a new term?
It's one that's become more and more common. People may be more familiar with the idea as rapid prototyping, because prior to about 2005, people were using these technologies to create samples. Around 2005, there seems to be a shift. And artists, architects, designers, various creative people were starting to incorporate these technologies into their general practice. So now, in terms of digital fabrication, and in the exhibition, we have architects, designers, fashion, furniture.
Hold on, these are the people who would be most inclined to see it. Architects, sculptors, people into fashion.
Yes.
What about regular folks like me who are not into that, just talk show hosts? Is there something there for us?
Absolutely. On the second floor, we have a lab. So we're partnering with Shapeways, which is an online 3D printing platform, so people can be scanned. So you can be scanned, your full body, and then you can have a tiny model printed out.
Fascinating. I know we have a dress that we're going to look at, and you're going to talk through.
Okay, so this dress is by Michael Schmidt and Francis Bittonti. Michael Schmidt's in Los Angeles, Francis Bittonti is in New York. It was designed...
Easy for you to say. Go ahead.
It was designed by for the burlesque icon Dita Von Teese.
That dress is not 3D printed.
It is entirely 3D printed in parts, and it's actually the first fully articulated dress. So there are 3,000 individual joints. So it's created in that machine that you saw.
Sorry for interrupting. That dress was designed for this particular woman's shape?
It was. So they scanned her body, using a 3D scanner. I don't know if you're familiar with that machine, that apparatus, but basically it's capturing a 3D model in the computer. It's like a hologram in the computer. And then that information, what is common about all of the objects in the exhibition is that they originate in the computer as a model, and then the information is sent in layers to a machine that builds it up. So for the dress, they scanned her body to create something that was perfectly form-fitting. It was made in segments and assembled. So people seem to think that 3D printing is instantaneous. That dress took a week to print out fully. So It's less than if it were to have been made by hand.
Right.
But essentially, it's something that would not have been able to be created prior to this technology because it incorporates inherent articulated joints.
This is wild.
A 3D printer, you can print something that has a joint, so there's no need for assembly. It's the idea of 3D printing an umbrella that's folded. Right. You pull it out of the machine, and you can unfold it, and it is, and so that dress itself is something that...
Let's try this one. I know there's another video. It is called CNC, milling.
Correct.
As we look at it, what is that?
So CNC is abbreviation for computer numerically controlled. Basically, It's computer assisted. In this piece by Barry Exball, he's a Brooklyn artist, and he recreates masterworks. He scans the original, captures it as a digital file. Here we see it as a digital file, and then has it recreated in a different hardstone. So he goes to quarries around the world, and it's a machine that creates it. I mean, it took 2 years for him to develop the technology, the model. And again, once he's identified the hardstone, that was about a week of rough cutting and then a month of a robotic arm, basically a robot. It's called a multi-axial robot because it can come in from different directions and create these really intricate objects and complex undercuts that wouldn't have been easily accomplished
Layperson's
otherwise.
question that's on my mind, and I know other people watching here on public television are thinking the same thing, but doing that, does it take away from the original art?
No, because in this particular case, there is so much handwork that goes into it. So you could see it as an extension of an artist and the artist's, the people who train under him and work with him. But in a sense, it's a machine, it's a robot that takes it to a certain point, and then he has assistants that then work months, 9 months to complete it.
Okay, before I let you out here, Ron, one more. By the way, the exhibit, Out of Hand, is going to be all the way till June 2014?
Correct.
Okay, one more quick picture. Brain waves sofa?
This is fantastic. So two designers had an EEG connected to their head and measured their brainwave pattern while thinking of the term comfort.
Right.
So this is a 3-second brainwave pattern of the thought of comfort, which they then had created into a sofa. And the idea is the word comfort comfortable?
You love what you do.
It's fantastic.
It really is. And that's why you're the Marcia Docter Curator at the Museum of Art and Design in Columbus
Circle.
Right around the corner from Lincoln Center.
Correct.
We appreciate Ron Labaco, we appreciate you coming in. Good stuff. Make sure you go see the Out of Hand exhibit it was actually started a few months ago, all the way to mid-year 2014. Right. Thank you, buddy.
All right.
Stay right there.
Thanks.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back from the Tisch WNET studio at Lincoln Center. They're around the corner, but we're here. That's why we're neighbors. Be back right after this. That was fascinating.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
Adrienne Esposito is the executive director of an organization called the Citizens Campaign for the Environment. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
What is this organization, and why did you get involved in starting it 29 years ago?
Well, the organization is a bi-state organization throughout New York and Connecticut. We have 5 offices in New York and 1 in Connecticut. We work on a wide variety of environmental and public health protection issues. Everything from protecting your drinking water, your air, the land, our beaches and our bays and our oceans. Why did we start it? We were very young and very enthusiastic. And we actually started on Long Island thinking that we wanted to work to protect drinking water or groundwater in the case of Long Island. And then from there, we realized we really needed to do it on a larger scale in order to impact
Is that you guys?
And affect the change. That's one group shot of us, yes. That's us.
So there was a group of people from Long Island who said, hey, we need to do this?
As
opposed to just saying government officials, you do it?
That's right. What we found throughout the years, Steve, is that, government, unfortunately, isn't waking up in the morning saying, today's the day I'm going to protect the environment.
Let's have the DEP, the EPA do it. They'll do it.
Yeah.
Didn't work that way?
Well, they do it when you light a little fire. Yes, a little nudge, sometimes a big nudge, sometimes a big boost. You know, people need to engage in the political process, and that's really how democracy works best. It's still the old adage, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So when we focus government on an issue, then they put energy and time and resources into solving it.
Give us a concrete example, because actually we were in a conversation with Rich Henning, folks over at United in Water, and we were talking about who's out there doing really good stuff, and they mentioned your organization. I was like, okay, so what have they done? What have you done?
It's a fair question. We've actually done a lot. Throughout New York State, actually, we've been behind many of the movements to preserve land. We've been behind many of the movements to advance renewable energy, such as solar and wind and geothermal.
Are you into the fracking thing?
Yes, we're opposed to it.
Yeah, explain the fracking thing for people who are like, I hear it, I don't understand it, why should I care?
Right.
What is it and why should they care?
What the heck is this new word, fracking?
Yeah.
We get that a lot. Fracking, what it is that it is a newer technology that uses high volumes of water, pushes them with great force several miles underneath the earth, and breaks apart shale. The breaking apart of that shale allows natural gas to be...
Shale is?
Shale. Shale is it's a rock formation. And it captures natural gas. And that natural gas comes back up to the surface and they distribute it. Unfortunately, in that process, there's a lot of environmental damage that's done. And we don't believe that
like what?
Well, we don't believe we should have to choose between energy and clean water. And like what is that? There's drinking water contamination, there's air quality contamination, there's some radioactivity that occurs and mixes with the water and the wastewater. There's a lot. And so what we want to do is we want to find ways that we can do energy extraction and exploration and production without polluting and contaminating the world in which we live.
What's the policy in New York State?
The policy in New York State right now is pending, as we like to say.
Oh, I like that. So the policy on fracking is pending.
That's exactly right. It's still in the permitting stages. The state is doing a health assessment, and they are still looking at that for the last year. It's highly controversial in New York State. Literally, from Montauk, Long Island to Medina in upstate New York, people have been protesting and working against this from coming to New York.
And the Citizens Campaign's position and role in this?
Our role is that we've organized and educated the public, so the public is engaged and educated and part of the process. Our position is that hydrofracking is not safe. It is not a way that we should be re-addicting ourselves to fossil fuels, and we're rejecting it.
It's interesting. Our sister program, Capital Report, looks at New Jersey issues. And public television obviously looks at New York-based and public policy issues as well. But one-on-one also has a personal component to it, meaning we look at who the person is. Who the heck are you, and why do you continue 29 years? Seriously, why do you still have this passion 29 years later?
You know, I've been asked that. You know, people are like, why are you an environmentalist? And for me, it's like
29 years later, why are you still doing it?
Well, it's like saying to you, why do you have brown eyes? You know, why am I 5'2.5"?
Is it that natural?
I feel like it is.
You were born to do this?
I don't know. I grew up with a fishing pole in one hand and a crab trap in the other, and 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on the land. And I think that when you grow up in a way where you are connected to the natural world, that you have a natural affinity to know it is your responsibility and part of your being to really save it, to protect it, because you need to give voice to something that doesn't have a voice, and that is our natural world. And we are connected, right? We rely on it for our health, we rely on it for our habitat and to live, and we need it more than we think sometimes.
You believe, and by the way, people can log on to your website to find out more and how they can get involved if they choose to, but most importantly, get informed about these issues. You don't believe that people sitting back and expecting, quote unquote, government or politicians who serve in government to do the right thing. You do not think that that is the role of citizenship.
I tell you what I've learned in almost 3 decades, which I hate to admit, of doing grassroots work, and that is that the public's not apathetic. People think the public is apathetic, but that's wrong. The public feels disempowered, and that causes them to be disengaged. But the public cares very deeply about the world around them and the future for their children and the future of the quality of their life.
But how do they express it if they're not voting as regularly as they should, if they're not going out to meetings of government officials who get together to discuss things. And how would you know that if we don't see it that often?
But we see it more now. And that's the role of grassroots groups. Let's look at hydrofracking.
A couple minutes left, go ahead.
Hydrofracking, thousands of people have come out to public hearings, rallies in Albany or spread out throughout the New York State. Thousands of people from all walks of life.
And that makes how much difference?
It has made a big difference. For 4 years, the state has not permitted hydrofracking like they were set to do just 4 short years ago.
You're saying because of that public outcry,
Exactly.
because of that public involvement and engagement, government officials are possibly not doing what they otherwise would have done?
That's right. They've changed their mind because they were listening to the public. They've said we cannot just reflect a corporate interest. We must reflect the public interest in our decision-making process. If the public explains their interest and voices their interest, that's when the government has to pay attention. Silence isn't golden. Silence is dangerous.
Folks, let's make sure in another program we have some folks who believe fracking is the right thing. We'll give them an opportunity to share their view as well. And then
I think there are 2 of them out there.
Well, the 2 of them out there. Listen, you got a good sense of humor about it, too. Adrienne Esposito, Executive Director of the Citizens Campaign for the Environment. I want to thank you for joining us. I will tell you this. For doing this for, I know you don't like saying almost 3 decades.
I don't care.
Clearly, you have a lot of passion, probably more than when you even started this. And
That's
we
true.
give you, on behalf of everyone in public television, we give you a lot of credit for being involved in the process and making a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff. Thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System. Funding has been provided by Barnabas Health, Berkeley College, the law firm of Gibbons PC, United Water, Wells Fargo, Verizon Communications, and by New Jersey Natural Gas. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been made possible in part by the Adler Aphasia Center.
Hi, I'm Governor Tom Kean. A dear friend of mine had aphasia, which is a language disorder that occurs from a brain injury or a stroke. It robs a person's ability to communicate, but it doesn't affect their intellect. Programs and services offered at the Adler Aphasia Center help to improve my friend's communication skills, as well as her self-confidence and quality of life. Most importantly, she was among people who understood her. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with aphasia, there is hope.